Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to the My Tribe podcast. Coming to you live from the office, the podcast studio, where we're the podcast studio up in Pompano. We're here. We're coming to you live, and we are grateful to be here. We are excited to be doing another episode. I am just really I'm upset at myself for being inconsistent. I'm upset at myself being inconsistent with with this show, with um, this endeavor of a podcast. And I've been meeting a lot of individuals that are amazing, that are just very inspirational and very unique, and who I would love to have on the show. And I'm telling somebody I have a podcast, but then again, I'm like, well, what have I done in the past 3 months that'll express that I have a podcast? And yes, I've definitely been having a lot of time getting the endeavor of Ice A Palooza underway. And thank you God, because it has gone amazingly well. It has been very stressful, but it's been very rewarding because I've been blessed to see the experience and see the amazing community that's coming together through Ice A Palooza. And it's just such a blessing. I could not, I don't know. It's such a blessing. I guess I want to go back because I want to kind of like give this podcast a little bit of a spark, a little bit of a, I don't want to say a rebrand, but more so like a direction. One of the first things, define your audience, right? Define your audience. And I think I guess my audience, or who I want to talk to, is a younger version of myself. And I don't know how successful that's going to be, but I know the younger version of myself needs to hear what I need to say. Um, what I have to say, excuse me. And I'm excited to do that because I think that, getting on here, getting the word out there, doing it in this like authentic way of just like, yo, this is me. There isn't a fancy background or anything of that nature. We're really just out here doing our thing. And I'm not trying to be somebody I'm not. I am just trying to express, I guess, what a younger version of me needs to hear. Because there's a version of that individual out there who is working a job they don't like, who is stuck in that 9 to 5, and it's something that it's a job that younger Patrick was working, that he was unfulfilled in, and he knew he was meant for more, but just um not knowing what to do, which direction to go. And I would say again, like right here, right now, maybe just dream really big. That's kind of the starting point, I would think. Like aim the highest of highs and take a crack at it every day is so this is kind of advice for my younger self and also my current self, because where I'm at right now, I'm doing personal training, I'm doing the podcast, I'm doing Ice A Palooza, and to be very honest, there's uh we're making enough money to eat and break even to do things that are fun, but it's not like support a family kind of money. It isn't anything that it's sustainable for a very long time kind of money. Um, and I guess where I'm at, and when I sat down with a very near and dear friend of mine recently in terms of having a, business guided decision conversation. And it was like, well, if you had to get up and do something every day, what would it be? If you weren't getting paid, you hit the lotto tomorrow, what would it be? And I don't know why, but like deep down in my heart, it's this. It's it's connecting with individuals. It is um teaching. Yeah, I never realized how passionate I was about teaching until I got into a managerial position at a like 300 unit building in Manhattan where I knew the basics of the mechanics, and then the handyman there showed me the specifics, and I was able to understand it in a very detailed way. And then I had the plumbers and the other experts there walk me through it and show me more and more and more. And then I took that information and I made it a point to teach my staff all the way to the guy who was sweeping the sidewalk. He knew how to turn the boiler on, turn the boiler off. He knew where the triplex pump was. Well, for him, it was the triplex pump. My man Victor, spoke no English, but he knew where the triplex pump was and how to turn it on and how to turn it off. Because if you didn't know how to do that, the bottom half of the building would have no water. So I guess that kind of goes to where, who, and how I'm speaking to in the sense of my passion for why I'm doing this. Like, why do I on a Sunday night, why am I sitting here with a computer, a microphone, a camera, talking into a computer, and like, why am I doing it? What's your why? Why am I doing it? Um, and I think it goes to that education piece of, passing along that information. I know a lot of that itch is scratched in personal training as well, kind of that, teaching people what I've learned in the process of my journey of working out, and what works well, what doesn't work well, exploring new avenues, all of that. But I want to get back and stay on topic of that. If you're concerned and nervous about, taking that leap of faith, and to me, the leap of faith is just that. It's action, and I was thrusted into the leap of faith literally by almost dying on the side of a mountain and getting on one knee and saying, God, if you get me off this mountain, I'll quit my job. I knew deep down my heart that's what I got to do because I was unfulfilled doing what I didn't want to do. And I got off that mountain, and I'll put the link to that whole story. It's very long and detailed, but it's a very good one. So check that out. The origin story of your boy, how he ended up in the sunny state of Florida doing a podcast on Sunday night. But that's neither here nor there. What I do want to get into is that, like, it's like, when your time has come, when the journey's over, when you're going into work and you're like, man, this sucks. This really, really sucks. And as I'm expressing this, it kind of speaks to two, because you have two roads at that point, and you either look for other jobs, or and you find another job and go down that road, or you go down the road of entrepreneur. Go be an entrepreneur, find something that you love to do, and do it 7 days a week because it's what you love to do. It's not actually work, but it's not for the faint of heart. It is something that is constantly stressing, constantly worrying. There is an immense amount of faith involved on a regular basis. So if you don't have a sense of faith, that road is not for you. If you're a pessimist, that road is not for you. If I honestly, at this point in my juncture of this, if you don't have like a spiritual belief, like a spiritual foundation, that there's a God, that there's a higher power, if you don't have an aspect of that, I don't think that road is for you personally, because the impact of believing in a higher power, knowing that doors are going to be opened when I'm deathly afraid to close these other doors that are sure means of income, that are, clients that are paying, but I don't love working with them. Um, and getting out of bad situations and getting fired and realizing that that door being closed is the best thing that ever happened to you. Those are the levels of faith that are tested on this journey. And I was just listening to Alex Hormozy, and he was talking about how the, investing in the stock market is, how people save up for retirement. I'm going to invest in stocks to save up for retirement. And his other perspective there is that people should be investing in skills and themselves because those are the assets that never depreciate. Those are the assets that you can always trade for dollars. If I learn how to sell, I can go work for anybody and learn and sell. I can develop a product, develop this thing and sell it. If I learn how to market, I can market this on social media and sell it. That is literally something within arm's reach here. But it's, I think that's something that I grasped when I was working in these very luxurious buildings in New York City. And it was when I moved from Brooklyn, running these little knickknack buildings, 3 buildings, and then I'd run another one. Now I moved up to a building right off Fifth Avenue. And, when I was growing up, there was always a lot of, TV time. We, have dinner, go down. Now we're sitting watching TV. We're watching TV together. It's this form of bonding. And then as we got older and, very blessed that my parents worked their butts off, TV got bigger and bigger. So the one thing I realized is they got more successful, the TV got bigger. And that was such a cool thing. I was like, oh man, we're oh, look at this. Look what we're watching, a 60-inch now. Let's go. And it was awesome. You got to watch the Giants on a Monday night on a 60-inch television. Like that's the, the typical American dream. And when I went to these individual apartments who had a very little TV, but their libraries were massive. And I was like, wow, they have a whole room just for books. They have a whole wall just for books. Their book um in inches, their book by inch essentially is a lot bigger than 60 inches. It was more than 100-inch TV. They had a whole wall full of books that I'd assume that they didn't just buy and not read. And by reading those books, it gave them assets and skills and tools that they had to have the courage to apply. Or maybe it was stories about courage that helped them to use the skills in the other books that they read, and so on and so forth. Um, but I realized that their book collection was bigger than their televisions on no numerous places. I'm like, oh, yo, we going into a money apartment. Yo, let's see how big the TV wasn't that big. And I'm like, why is this? But the library was. And I'm realizing now that that's because they were investing not in liabilities, which would be a TV that you buy in 2024. I buy a TV today, it's going to depreciate by 2028 because there's going to be new and more um, advanced technology in the next 4 years. It's going to go down in value. It's guaranteed. Everybody remembers when those first plasma TVs came out, they were selling them for like $8,000 to $12,000 a pop. Now I can walk in a store. I got this one like out of the box deal for like 150 bucks. So again, that's a liability. It's not an asset. It's going to depreciate in value. One. Two, the what wasn't depreciating in value in their household and the glimpse of the life that I was able to see behind the private door of their home was the knowledge and the books and the the skills that they were investing in. And it doesn't just, you can't just buy the book and let it sit on your shelf. You have to actually take the time and dedicate time to do that so that you're becoming better every day. You're becoming better as opposed to staying the same or getting worse. Because like truly, in my opinion, staying the same is getting worse. I think that if we don't adapt and change and grow, then that stagnancy is actually worse than because I think going down has a lot of good effects. I mean, almost every down in my life has been catapulted 10 times higher. So, I mean, I when I look back on the events of my life and how things have gone, I think some of the pivotal moments of when I had my heart broken by like a number of girls, the things that you know, the decisions that I've made that weren't good decisions. And like one of the biggest and massive one was leaving New York City and moving to Florida and jumping into the water without a life preserver and seeing if I could swim and seeing what I could do in that situation. I don't think you truly know what you got in terms of resiliency and perseverance until you're hungry, until nobody's there throwing you a rope, no one's there helping you out. You got to be out on your own and jump in that water and it's sink or swim. And I think that's why, they have the old saying, burn the boats. And that's very clearly why that worked. They would land on the shore, the Vikings would land on the shore, burn their boats, they take all their cast iron pans and break them over the rocks. And this is the thing I just read that the cast iron pan part. I'm like, like, all right, boats, yeah, can't get home. I get that. We're not going home. I get that. But when they took their cast iron pans and broke them, I was like, why would they do that? That was a weird thing to read about. Going back to that. It was because they weren't going home on those ships and they weren't cooking dinner where they cooked it previously. They're going to conquer the land that they land on, that they came to conquer, or they're not going to live. And if they live, they're not going to eat. They're not going to have you might be able to clip a deer as things are happening, going by, whatever, where you are, but that causes the offensive to happen a little bit more swiftly and aggressively. Um, so that is a unique way to get creative about success. About success. I mean, I was just reading a book earlier last night. I came home, went to the hockey game with my boy, and I was like, I'm gonna come home. It's Saturday night. I'm just gonna watch some cartoons or watch some dopey show and like turn my brain off. And something called me to this book, and it's a book called David and Goliath. And it first broke down the story of David and Goliath about how, although Goliath was a massive soldier, David was just a shepherd boy. But um, I'll get into that another time. But in the book, what it really talks about is how, if you look back at history, at all of the wars that were ever fought, ever, from the beginning of time since they started documenting the wars, when there's an outnumbered, or like there's a favorite essentially, that the underdog has about a 70% chance of winning because they're forced to be creative. When you look at it all the way through, and when you have to get creative about the things and the way things go, when you don't go by the traditional, the basic traditions. I mean, that's why the Americans won the American Revolution. They knew the lay of the land. They knew how to, again, the colonists lived here. They interacted with all of the settlers and so on and so forth, and knew how to beat an English army that were stacked in rows of 4 or 20 or 16 or whatever it was, back to back to back. If American soldiers that wanted their freedom, they lined up. All right, you guys are here. We're here. We have 20. You have 200. And they lined up and shot and then refired and shot again and refired and shot again. They would die. They would have all died. And instead of doing that, they had to get creative and attack at different times, different ways, attack in the winter when the English were not comfortable. Also, the whole thing. When you have to get creative is when you're forced to get creative because your numbers are down. That is that is the way that is the way to success, I think. And I think when I quit my job and walked away, it was a very unique situation. I couldn't expect someone else to just take my word for it. Like, oh, just do it. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It will. But you need to have faith. You need to be creative. You need to work very hard. If the entrepreneurial life is what you want. And I by no way made it that in any way, shape of the world. But I feel very blessed to live in a place that I love. I feel very blessed to be doing what I love to do, even though the trading time for dollars vis-a-vis personal training may not be a viable way to live a long-term life at the moment. I can accept that. And I think I needed to go down that road to get into that passion, to get into to see what I got. I was telling my boys, I'm like, yo, I gotta see what I got. I gotta jump in the water. And I gotta see if I can swim. Because my whole life I've been blessed with family and friends and a community in New York that helped me accomplish so much because of the amazing connections. I mean, it was phone calls away. I still had to show up. I still had to, say the right thing, do the right thing, be the right person every day. But those doors wouldn't have been open to me without that community that was already established there. I'm very well aware of that. And I think that's also like a layer of what is pushing me right now, in the sense of like, let's see what kind of community we can develop here. Let's see what kind of community we can build around what we love. How can we take what we know from our previous life, whether it be the skills and the assets, that those doors open, that community opened me up to a room full of massively successful people. And I was forced to be uncomfortable and walk up to individuals, say, hey, man, hi, I'm Patrick. Who are you? Oh, awesome. Great. And to be able to learn how to work a room where it wasn't life or death. I didn't have to walk around that room desperate And it wasn't moving from desperation, it was moving from inspiration. I was inspired to be better. I was taking out garbage and sick and tired of taking out garbage. And every bag I tied up, I was like, nah, I'm shaking another hand tonight. I'm getting out of this position that I'm in because garbage don't smell good. And and then it would leak out my leg. I'm like, nah, I'm doing a resume tonight. I don't care if there's no job, but I'm gonna be ready when it comes because I'm done with this. Done. But again, that brings me back to like the beginning of my career when I was like, you know what, enough's enough. I can't keep, just doing that. But again, that's those are the those are the uncomfortabilities that I believe each of us needs to go through. And there are aspects of my business now that are those uncomfortabilities that I need to dial in, get into. I mean, this right here is an example of that. I haven't put out content. I don't even know how long. I don't know. It's probably been at least 3 weeks of just no new podcast, no new content at all. I've been very focused on building Ice A Palooza, but like there I go, giving myself an excuse. No, there's no excuse. There's no excuse at all for what I haven't done. Um, but this is the example of getting uncomfortable and doing it anyway, because this is it. This is what it takes to get out, do something. Like I love podcasting. I love getting like connecting with individuals. And to me, when I started this off, I said set a big goal. I mean, the big goal would be to be a full-time podcaster, like just podcaster. What like have my own show, have amazing individuals on and off that show, on that show every day. And that's that to me would be a dream. And if we're gonna live this life and not dream, what's the sense? Literally, what is the sense? If you're not going to set up big ass goal, what is the sense of getting on this ride? It's like getting on a roller coaster at like Disney World and saying, you know what? I'll do like the little things, but I'm not going to go down that big jump. That's let's leave that part out. Um, because it's scary. Because it's something that, might take a while to get. And I was just listening to another. It was so good. They laid it out visually, so amazing. Just listening to another video, and it was expressing how it takes the same amount of effort. It was three options, right? And it takes the same amount of consistent effort to build like to have a job and make 100 grand a year. That's box one. Box two, own your own business and make, let's call it 500 grand a year, right? And then there's to have your own business and be a multimillionaire. You show up, let's just call this restaurant, construction company, and owning a corporation. Those three boxes right there. You still have to get up every day. You still have to work really hard. It's to me, it's the level of headaches that you want to deal with, the level of headaches you want to burden. That's that's part of it, but it's actually it's how high do you want to aim? Because you're gonna get up every day. And do you want the instant gratification of making 2 grand a week and that comfortability of that? Or are you willing to say, you know what? As I'm doing what's paying the bills, let me start here, but also let me see what I can do to try to chop this tree down. This third box of a corporation or a podcast. I mean, like you have any idea the numbers of some of the top podcasters, what they're pulling in now? I haven't looked it up, but I know Joe Rogan, the Caller Daddy girls are some of the most massively successful people. Well, they're dramatically wealthy. And they got there by doing something they love to do and doing it consistently. Like that to me is the key is that they just kept chopping. They kept chopping. They kept chopping. Maybe the car daddy girl was a waitress and she needed to, like make money to get there. But that was good. Now she was doing something else to help her own company. But now what was this third one? What was this is like the month to month plan. This is the 1 to 3 year plan, and this is the 5 year plan. What does the 5 year plan look like? And what can we do each day to put a coin in that slot machine? Because once that hits, this one hits, okay, cool. You get a paycheck every week. Boom, boom, 2 grand, 2 grand, 2 grand, 2 grand. I can live on that. I'm good with that. It's instant gratification. The other one here, yeah, you're pulling it. It maybe hits every month. It's gonna be tough. Say hi, Uno. Say hi. I'm Batman. And it goes every month, but now this one don't hit. This don't hit for a year. This don't hit for 2 years. This don't hit for 3 years. But you gotta keep chopping at it. But the more money you put in that slot machine, the more that five turns to a three, turns to a two, to a possible one. If you keep putting energy there. That's where I'm gonna leave it tonight. What is that third box that you're super passionate about? Mine, when I think and deep down and I really, really, it's this. It's this. And my motivation comes and goes for this, but I enough's enough. Enough's enough. Let's stop making this a pipe dream and make it a reality. This is a dream that I was afraid to even speak about. My podcast started as a way to meet people and have amazing people get their insights and get their outlook on life. And now it's talking to individuals that are dramatically inspiring, dramatically successful when I've had the gall to tell them, like, yeah, I think, training's great, but I don't know if it's for me forever. Well, what is? Like to sit there and have the idea of like podcasts come to my head and then actually say that, that's scary. Like that was a scary thing to say and actually embrace. But I was blessed to be approached by individuals who held the space for me to express my true self. So I want to thank those people um, who helped me along that path. And there have been a number, definitely up in the top that I could think of is, oh man, Jack the Whack. There's another podcast with him. You guys want to look back in the Tribe podcast, homies, he's on that. We've talked and um a mentor of mine, Michael, and another mentor of mine, Jeannie. I mean, these are amazing individuals that I've been blessed to really be able to express when they ask, what do you want? That's the gist of it. So let's keep doing it. Let's take this as a positive momentum moving forward. And let's think about let's walk away here with what is it that what is that big box for you? Is it an online training platform? Is it a to own your own construction company one day? Is it to have rental properties all over the world one day? What is it? That big goal, that 5 year, what is that actually for you? And how can we start Put a penny in that slot because those pennies are going to compound. These episodes are going to compound. We're going to build and build and build and build and build. At some point, people can say, yo, I like watching that guy. I like doing this. He's got good hair. He's got he's got something, man. And like when you believe you got something, then somebody else believes you got something. And then that other person who believes will tell somebody, yo, he's got something, and so on and so forth. Because if you don't believe it, what's the sense? What's the sense? Well, listen, I just want to thank everybody that been tuning in. I appreciate you. Go check out those other two episodes I was talking about with the origin story. That's a wild one. That one I had a lot of fun with. And also Jack the Whack. He's a character of an individual. So let's think about that big goal, what we want, and we'll circle back. I'll see y'all soon.